Our intro music is provided by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com.
You are all.
Everybody's voting for the friendly voice of radio, the people's choice. Music, weather, sports, and news, it's radio. The people choose. Everybody swinging to the swinging voice of radio, the people's choice. Big fry, small fry, dawn to dawn, it's radio that turns them on.
The views, opinions, and representations expressed on the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network and its website are those of the hosts, guests, and participants, and are not necessarily those of or endorsed by the network, its affiliated stations and broadcasts, the management, other hosts, or advertisers of the network. The shows found on the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network can, but do not necessarily, promote any particular lifestyle, belief, religion, political affiliation, or other personal practice. These shows are for entertainment purposes only, and are not intended to treat, diagnose, and or claim any cure of disease or condition, or give any medical or legal advice. You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. Coming to you from some far point station, like a cosmic tumbleweed, both north and south of the Pleiades. Here's your host, Gary Anderson.
Well, here it is. Already the week is going by so fast. I don't know, it's summer. It's going to be gone before we even know it. Well, anyway, you're listening to me, Gary, on Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark, down at the compound. I'll tell you one thing. Being laid up for the last 2 months, I have not had to clean the horse pasture. I left that to, some of my children. I hope everybody's having a great summer. Tonight, we got Karen Banks on. She loves, a little bit about her. She's into the paranormal. She loves going out looking for relics all over the place. This person is infatuated with finding relics like you wouldn't believe, and she does. By a lake by where she lives, she's found a lot of relics left over from World War I. Buttons, medals, and things like that. Hey, Karen, kid, how you doing tonight?
Hi, Gary. I'm doing good.
Well, that's better than not.
Out here.
Well, what's your temperature?
No idea. I'm sitting in the van.
Oh, okay. Well, that's one way to get signal, isn't it?
I have a noisy household, so I sit in the van when I'm out here.
Oh, okay. Well, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
All right. Well, I'm 50 years old, and I've been into the paranormal since I was probably about 7-ish. And I've been relic hunting off and on casually for probably about 10 years, maybe.
Oh, wow.
And fossil hunting, crystal hunting.
Well, do you ever have time for your husband doing all this, going out there looking for stuff?
I'm single.
Oh, you're single. That okay. Well, that makes sense now. That gives you all the time in the world, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
So, going out relic hunting, what's the most exciting and the most exciting thing you've ever come across?
I would have to say the hand grenade and the phosphorus flare.
Now, was this hand grenade drained of the gunpowder, or was it actually a live one that you found?
I'm not sure. They never did tell me, but when I found it, I thought it was a rock, and I turned it over, and it was actually a sediment-encrusted hand grenade. Looked like a pineapple. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do with this thing? And I noticed that there was no pin. And I was like, oh my God. So I ended up, set it gently on a log, and I called the park police, who in turn called the town police, who in turn called the county police. They then had called the Air Force to try to get a bomb squad down there, and they ended up having to get a squad from Rochester, and it took like 3 hours of waiting for somebody to come and take this this grenade away, and they came with a big truck and a box, and it was so cool.
Oh, yeah. I mean, people got to be careful. There's the reason why I say that, when I was a kid, my grandmother had this like cannon shell that used to use like, I don't even know how she got it, except maybe from one of her children, but they used to use during World War II, in the tanks and stuff like that. And it was sitting for years and years in their front room. And I used to play with that thing. And then one day she had a guest over, and he was retired, a Northwest Mountie. And he took one look at that, and he goes, "This is live." And,
you can tell with the fuses still in it.
Yeah, it was live. I don't know how many times I dropped that thing playing. I was a little kid, like 10 years old, 9 years old, 8 years old, something like that. I was sitting there playing with that thing outside, tossing it. I'm surprised that sucker didn't go off.
I am too.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Could you imagine that thing going off? If she wouldn't even had a front room of her little house, it would have taken it out.
Your house would be gone. There'd be a big pit in the ground.
Yeah,
your family album would show the last photo would be this big pit in the ground.
Yeah, I don't even know how she got it, but that to find out. So you got to be careful when you go find anything, like grenades. But usually, if the pin is out of the grenade, you have nothing to worry about, And most of them, that they sold in the surplus stores, after the war, they actually, when they open it up, there was like a big hole in the bottom going up. So, it was nothing in there. But,
this thing was so sediment encrusted you couldn't tell if it was hollow or if it was a dummy, a training grenade, because they used to train over there at the fort. And so there was all kinds of military stuff out there. There's these, all the way back to Revolutionary War, the Spanish War, the Spanish-Indian War, and, Civil War, everything, all the way up to World War II.
They're still finding, in Germany, like every couple of weeks, they're still finding, some of the bombs that are dropped from the bombers, that got covered up, and they were still active. And, that's going to go on for years. And, it's scary.
Germany, France, England. There's a beach in England that's just covered with bombs and all kinds of ammunition. And I have metal detectors friends that are over in Germany and France, and there's forests full of them. One day they'll find 100 of them, and they have to stack them up, and then they call the authorities and they come and take them away.
Oh yeah, they're still finding relics like helmets, guns, ammo, you name it, gas masks, meal kits. They're still finding that stuff on a regular basis. You can imagine how many people, passed on during the war. And this stuff just kind of laid there and got, just left there.
I find a lot of dog tags that I think I figured out why there's so many. I think they were from, because just about everybody that I have found from the names on the tags and the numbers, it turns out they died over in France during the war, during World War I. And it was probably their personal belongings were shipped back here to the fort, and nobody claimed them.
Yeah.
So they at the end of the war, I know they bulldozed everything into the lake, and that's they wash up. You find them in the water, and I've researched a couple. I was able to find 2 or 3 of the people. And the one guy I narrowed down to being buried in a cemetery in France. And I got the row number, the plot number, everything. And I was like, wow. And he was from somewhere down south, like Mississippi or something.
Could you imagine? I don't understand why they just didn't, make a big pit and just dump the stuff in the pit, but sit there and dumping it in the lake. I mean, of course, back then they weren't, they
weren't as pollutant conscious as we are today.
They actually weren't at all. They, hey, let's dump it in the lake. They're up by where I live. There's a mental hospital, and there's a small lake by the hospital. And the original hospital, they tore it down, then they built another one around the 1920s. But the old one, it went back to the 1800s and something. the same thing. You know, you'd find in this little lake, you'd find silverware, you'd find all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm
I
talking,
find that too.
yeah, mass amounts of it. You know, they just got rid of it. They just tossed it in the lake to get rid of it, I guess, hide it.
Yeah. I have tons and tons of silverware, forks, knives, spoons. Probably about half of them are stamped with U.S. on them, and the other half are like personal ones from families and homes and stuff.
Now, what lake are you finding
Lake
this?
Ontario.
Yeah, really, and the stuff has survived. Yeah. You know, I've seen some of the stuff that you've gotten, and it's really a remarkable condition.
Oh yeah, it's actually, some of it's better than what you would find in the ground if you were metal detecting. Like, a lot of the coins I find are in better shape than out of the water than they would be out of the ground. Like the Indian head nickels and I found silver half dollars. I found silver dimes, and I brought a friend of mine down there, and she found a gold coin from I think it was like 1899 or something. It was
wow.
a gold dollar coin.
So you're still finding stuff. How often do you go to that lake and look for stuff?
Every chance I get, but this year I haven't been able to get there to look for much because the lake water has been so high. So there's no shore, and you can't really see in the water because the cliffs are collapsing, and they're made out of clay. And when the waves come up, they wash the clay, and you can't see in the water. Usually I'll go out there with a mask and snorkel, and you can't. I was down there just like 2 days ago, and you can't see in the water at all.
How come it's so full this time of year?
All the rain we had in the spring and early summer, and I've heard that the dams at the St. Lawrence, they wouldn't open them because they didn't want to flood Montreal and Quebec areas and further down to the St. Lawrence River. So they backed it up on us, and we flooded, and the water's just been unbelievably high all summer.
Oh wow! Now going back to you're getting into the paranormal. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
How old were you when you actually started realizing there's paranormal things going on in your life?
I was 7 when I had my first actual experience, and ever since then, things would just happen, especially sensing things and dreaming things that would come true, and